in July. Yesterday was special. The financial year started without a budget. Oh, I love this country. Yesterday the financial year started effectively without a budget because we are still looking at appropriation. But yeah, the taxes that were discussed and passed yesterday, they are also in action to make sure that we are able to raise funds to foot our bills, the debt that we have, and make sure that services are basically handled. Time is about 9:01. My name is Noah Opera, and this is the economic agenda. It happens every Tuesday from every Tuesday from 9 up to 10:30. Today I have wonderful guests. The topic of discussion today is interesting. It's in my field, and I have experts who have passion for it, and also they are from the same field in a number of different ways. We are discussing media and human rights in national development. Is press freedom free? That is the question we are putting to you. So if you want to be part of the show, you can go to our Twitter handle, leave a comment there on the post, and also you can go to Facebook. You can also check out all the platforms and be part of the show. We see how we get to discuss a number of the things happening around the region. We have Kenya still in running battles between Gen Z and the president or the government, as they still so they jumped from drop the financial bill to reject the financial bill. Now they are saying Ruto must go, Ruto must resign. That is the battle that's happening in Kenya. A number of people have been killed, a number of people have been arrested. There are cases of abduction. The other time a video was circulating, there was an MP who was being arrested, either being arrested or abducted, because the people who were taking him were not in uniform. So I don't know whether that's an arrest. Fundy Outreach is going to explain to us if that is an arrest or actually it is an abduction. But it has been reported as an abduction. Back to Uganda, I think you need to see some of the things that have been happening in Parliament. But before that, let me take this opportunity to make sure that my guests introduce themselves, starting from the man next to me. He's a new face on the show, and one of those gentlemen that I've talked to, and I love his conversation and the way he articulates his issues on a number of matters. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Noah, and good evening to the viewers. It's a great honor to be here to contribute to these discussions. My name is David Mulabi, and my area of work is communication for development and yes, and social development in general.
Thank you.
Yeah, but my main interest is around the public policy, technology, and markets, and how this should work for the poor. Poor policies, basically. Thank you.
And we're looking at national development. So communication for development. He also has an eye for media in a number of ways. Of course, communication is media. Many times I love to tell people, yes, Afandawit, that's not the first time you are here. The last time you were here, I called you Major General. So I'm still praying. So that you called me as an MC on that celebration.
Because we have had the precedent where retired officers are promoted, so your prayers may not be misplaced.
Amen.
I can be promoted and I'll be happy. But I am Major Awich. I'm a retired army officer. My day-to-day work for feeding, I'm an advocate, I'm a lawyer. I'm an advocate, practicing lawyer, that is. My current deployment by my ruling party, the mighty NRM, has deployed me as Director for External Affairs. So I'm in charge to oversee things that happen outside Uganda in relation to Uganda. I also have interest in human rights because I have been a human rights judge with the United Nations for 8 years in Geneva. So for all the 8 years in Switzerland, my water, food, and bread was human rights. And I love it, and I like to deal in areas of human rights.
We are in the right place with the right people. and we have the right audience, because I know Smart 24 TV viewers love to get to hear some of these bigger topics. We always avoid to gossip about things. We discuss things. Let's go to Parliament a little bit before we get into our conversation. The President returned to Parliament the appropriation bill, which means that even the budget is on hold, because I think that's a tool that makes sure that the budget is passed. A lot of things have been happening around Uganda Parliament and the office of the President, and of course the President and the Speaker. There's a bit of contradiction. But today the bill, my producer could possibly give us a little bit of footage that happened in Parliament. Today the appropriation bill was being discussed. I think there was not much agreement, and a number of MPs were complaining that the President has accused them of being corrupt. This is the situation today. We had quite a number of MPs. It was full house. And discussion for money is interesting.
Yes.
So discussion for money is very interesting. It was full house, and we can see that people are active. One woman MP that I didn't notice rose up and said the President accused them of all of them being corrupt. So they were not happy, and she was saying that it's not okay for the bill to just be brought back, and we just have to look through it. He seems to be saying the President is just telling us do this, and we get to do it. But that's how the situation was today. One of the other key things that we noticed from this, and the story that is running online, is that when the budget came, the Speaker was very happy with it. Everything was okay, and it was good to go. Unfortunately or fortunately, the President says, we need to clean up some things before we get to make sure that we implement the financial year budget 2024 and 2025. Further which, from the situation here, what is the President's move? What is his intention in this matter? Why has the bill been brought back to Parliament?
Thank you so much. Now, the brief facts about what is happening in Parliament is that there is an issue of contention of 750 billion shillings. Now, this 750 billion shillings was touched by two committees. The committees which supervises the area where the money was put, because there are committees which does in that area. For example, you have a committee dealing with human rights and the rest. That would be controlling Electoral Commission, Human Rights Commission, Ministry of Justice, those areas of legality. Now this committee decided to reallocate this money. According to them, the areas where the money was put to, in their opinion, it was not proper. They put it somewhere. Then, still part of the 750, there was a budget committee itself. Budget committee also saw it not fit where the government had put the money, they put it somewhere. So it brought kind of what somebody would call something which needed a jurisprudence, an interpretation of the law. Because the executive is saying, we are the planners of this country. So we give you a budget. You members of Parliament, you are not the planners. If you give the budget and you change it, then you are setting a precedent, meaning that tomorrow, if government says put this money for payment of judges, Parliament will say no, we want it paid for teachers. Then who is now planning? At the same time, the legislatures are saying the word approve, because the constitution says they will approve. What does it amount to approve? Does amount to approve make us do something, or amount to prove let us just look at it? In the eyes of the executive, they think that it is a two-way, that is the legislature should just make notes to the executive. For example, you have proposed this, our view is this, in writing. And also arithmetic errors, like you have added this, the figure comes to 1 trillion, in our opinion, this figure is not 1 trillion. It is when you total it, it comes to 900 billion. So where are you getting 1 trillion? So that this goes back to the executive, and the executive looks at it. But the current format that it was, the two committees decided to reallocate. And that's why I'm saying it needed a jurisprudence, because it made some people would feel like, let the Constitutional Court interpret for us. What does it mean to approve? For example, if a list of ministers was sent for cabinet approval, do you decide you put Minister Kionga for defense? For us, we feel it should be in education. So there's a lot of need to interpret, and normally legal provision is argumented by a court. So that is what is bringing problem here, and that's why President Museveni said, no, you don't have power to reallocate. I am the one planning. Now, so that is what it is. So the president brings it back. Now, connected to that, even an ordinary bill, if you send a bill to the president to assent, he has right to send it back to Parliament for consideration. If they send it back 2 times, back and forth, it becomes automatically law. That is what happens. Should the president refuse to assent to it forever, it becomes law. That is a procedure in the legislation. So that is how a bill moves back and forth. But normally we have not reached, I don't have a precedent in Uganda where it moved back and forth. Maybe I don't remember where it became law in that way. So normally they get an amicable solution and the president assents to it. Now finally, you are talking of entering a month without a budget approved. What happens normally is that in the Constitution, Article 145, it provides that, is it 145 or 154? I'm not sure about the 5-4, either 4-5 or 5-4. Remember, a good lawyer is not the one who has in the head. He only knows where to get it. So forgive me if I don't have 5-4 or 4 right.
We also misfind the Bible, as we read the Bible. You can misquote.
So there's a constitutional provision which gives the president power to authorize spending if in the event that we enter that month or without an act authorizing. But normally, as you know, the spending is always put in quarters. So by the time we reach that release of the quarter of that, definitely we would have reached a solution. But should we reach that quarter in a lacuna, with a gap, then the government will use that presidential power, which is enshrined in the Constitution. So there is no big cause of alarm.
There's no big cause of alarm. I know our father says there's no big cause of alarm, but I want to ask, does this sound like a familiar story in the recent days?
Yeah, I mean, it was the coincidence is very, very, very poignant. This is unprecedented, that the government almost, in a layman's term, is almost being bankrupted because of this procedure for approving the budget. But for me, one thing that struck me is that this is happening at a time when there's a lot of reflection around Parliament, and appropriations and all these cases that have been ongoing, allegations that MPs have been doing back end negotiations on budgets of different government entities. And if I remember well, I think there was that bit of subtext in the president rejecting those rearrangements, because the idea that these MPs know who give them kickbacks and they want to give them more funding. The allegations that they negotiate. He give us so much, and then so that we can have a kickback of so much. Yeah. So for me, I think that is the subtext that I really find into this. This is unprecedented, but the senior lawyer says under the law we should not worry. But for me, it's the politics of it is a bit poignant. Maybe not worrying because this is the president. So, but for me, I think it also adds to the current conversations around the parliament and the governance and the issues around accountability.
I mean, we are looking at a number of contradictions that have been happening between the president and the speaker. The other day, she made a different statement, and the president came up and made a different statement, which was very clear that I think the Speaker of Parliament was speaking basically on her behalf in the name of the President on the issues of, if you have a child and he eats but can bring some from home, that is okay. And then the President says, we are dealing with these situations, hands on. And here is the bill that has been returned. Yes, Afande says that there's no cause for alarm. But just before we get into our main conversation, how are we looking at the fight that is happening? Is this one of the ways that the President is stamping, putting a nail on corruption, Afande? Is in that direction?
Well, I wonder why you call it a fight. I had already said that in normal legislative, remember we are referring to this as a bill. A bill is a draft law. When it is assented to, becomes an act. So that is why I put a general explanation about procedures of bills, legislative procedures. So to me, I will still insist the back and forth is a normal bill procedures. But if you want to interpret it in the light of fight for corruption, yes. I of course I wouldn't like to discuss from a guesswork or whatever rumors like this is what was happening. Yes. But of course there were fears that, for example, the MPs who were charged, the MPs who were charged because they had said they would negotiate. These are matters in court already. The brief fact is that the MPs had told the chairperson of the Election Commission that we shall hand you money and defend it, and when we defend it, you give us 20%. These were the charges in the court. So meaning, therefore, by his extension, you could say that yes, there could be suspicion that very reallocation that I talked about, the reallocation by the committees which sees the area, and the reallocation by the committees in Parliament, Committee of Budget, there's a possibility that there could have been a hand in it. Remember, the President is the consumer of all intelligence. So, is it that these very MPs, honestly, in their opinion, thought that where government had put it, for example, if you give an example, like if it was Ministry of Health, but this is within the ministry, that you put money for fuel or you put money for medicine, the MP said no, remove from medicine, put in fuel. And yet government had said put it in fuel. But you can even say, for example, you put money in Election Commission and then the committee says no, put it in Human Rights Commission because Human Rights Commission is underfunded. Just as an example. So that's why my colleague could be right to say, did they honestly act to save the situation in human rights, or they acted by transferring this money expecting something? And of course, those are now conspiracy theories.
We will drop that matter there. We wanted to highlight on what was happening today to make sure that we are up to speed with the conversation. Now, we will get into our main issue, which is media and human rights. Media in Uganda, like any other country, media is very key in development. Media is very key in making sure that a number of things are highlighted. It's why we exist. It's why we're called the fourth estate. It's why we are the invisible government that has to make things, change without going to all these things, we report into the matters of Parliament, we report into the matters of executive, the judiciary, and then we keep the population in the know in that matter. But media over the years has had a number of challenges. They have had running battles between the government and them. They have had issues of brutality, issues of abuse, issues of, being fought. I in person, sometimes when I enter offices, I hold myself sometimes from telling people I'm a journalist, because for the many offices that you go to, if it's a political office and you tell them you're a journalist, they'll first look at you with a strange face, and then they ask you, are you here to collect a story? And I'm wondering, okay, you actually have a story for me? It's the question I get to. But we want to get to understand the freedom of the media in Uganda. If you are to analyze the situations, especially when it comes to general elections, which we are heading to, and it's one of the things that I thought we should have this conversation. When you look at the situation of the media in national matters, especially elections, citing that election, I want to ask this to us: is the media safe? And is the media effectively delivering?
Well, you have already defined the media. All I would want to add is that we have now the traditional media and we have the social media.
The social media, yes.
The traditional media here, you could be talking in terms of electronic and print media. That is the televisions and the radios, and you have the newspapers, that is the New Vision, Monitor, and other papers. So you have electronic and print. But we now also have a domain of social media. And social media here, people will also claim their rights there too from the social media. So we have defined media, and I wanted to just add that. But I also want to say something about human rights that we take for granted before even moving forward. People define human rights as that inalienable rights. Some even say it is created by God. And I don't agree with that. Because if you say that, you would have downplayed the role played by other people who fought for their rights. Because this rights was earned. There are people who died fighting for rights, like in America and all over the world. Rights were not God-given. If it was God-given, it would have been given long ago. For example, at one time, there was only rights, not human rights. Rights alone. For example, you had the right of the king. You could not say a king had the same right like a servant, or a slave having the same right like a master. So there were only rights. Then after a long struggle for generations, human rights was born. So I like to say that human rights is a development which has been earned by human beings, not dropped by God. And there are people who died fighting for it. So if we say it is dropped by God, then we are really not appreciating those who died for it. Because there was a time you couldn't tell a king that you have a certain right with your servant. The right of a king was different.
Isn't it related to now? Because some people basically are almost kings.
Yes. So rights, there was only rights. Then the human rights developed later. That is when it was saying all human beings are born free and they have the same rights. But in the past, you'd be crazy. Like in even the 18th century, you'd be crazy to tell a king that you have the same right. But the right existed, but not human rights. Therefore, we should know that human rights is a development, and we also should appreciate governments now who promote and protect it. Because if you say it is God-given, then you are not even going to appreciate governments who have now codified it. Codified means it is now written into books. So those who have struggled to have it codified, those who promote it, those who set organizations like human rights and this to promote it should be appreciated. Instead of saying, oh, it is God-given, then you don't appreciate even those who promote and protect. Having said that, media can both bring development, as you said, and destroy it. For example, let me talk for the negative. We know that in a social media or media that moves even from mouth to mouth, or even on the TV and radio, brought problems in Rwanda. The genocide part in Rwanda was partly because of misinformation by media.
And the Uganda crisis that happened in 2007, 2008.
Yes, 2000
was escalated.
The commonly called what is that district of Nantaga?
Kayunga.
The Kayunga riot. A lot of it was blamed on the media. For example, somebody would be on social media and he would post that for us in Natete, we have already started burning government cars. What are you people waiting for? Okay? Even when it had known. So this was to incite the public.
Yes.
And that is when government came up and said, if you are then using social media to incite people, then we remove it. Because you would say, for us in Kawepe, we have already banned 3.
Well,
what are you waiting for?
I think the time of the Kayunga crisis, we did not have social media.
Facebook was there.
Yeah,
that was when it was closed.
It was ineffective.
Facebook was there.
It was closed. It was closed in 2021 after a tight competition between the opposition and the president. I think, to be precise, because I think there was a lot of 2021.
Okay, what I'm saying is, I can get the facts later. But what I'm saying is that social media can be used for anti-development and bring animosity in the population. However, research also proves that where there's observance of human rights, the development index corresponds highly.
Yes.
So either way,
I know Afande has taken quite some time there explaining that, but that was very important. I feel like I have 1,000 questions to ask around there, but I want a comment from David in addition to Afande's statement on the issue of press freedom, media. How are we standing in your opinion? And we shall go into a commercial break. We'll be coming back and get into this conversation.
Yeah, your question, the question you pose is press freedom free. It's a bit of an oxymoron. I mean, how do you say press freedom? Freedom is the concept of freedom. But to answer your question, I think we have a long way to go. And for me, I think there are perhaps the media itself, before you even talk about how the media is inhibited by the regulatory framework. I think over time, even the media itself, the issues of capacity, issues of ethics have crept in. So we do not get the full breadth of the freedom that we expect from media. Obviously, there is an overbearing hand of the government. It's very, very evident that there's a lot of self-censorship.
Yes.
When you come to a point that you have to censor yourself, not to publish something you would have otherwise wanted to publish, that is very telling. It's a different situation where you publish or you want to publish and someone says do not.
Do not.
Yes, but to a point that you're so intimidated that you avoid doing something before they stop you. So I think for me that's very telling. It's a huge commentary on press freedom in the country.
I love the addition. Now, what we're going to do, we are discussing media and human rights, and I'm realizing that we are getting into the details of what human rights are. I have more questions in regards to Afande's major retired, which is comments on the issues of human rights, the fact that we are getting to understand that the people who fought for human rights and they deserve to be respected for that matter, which makes it from rights to human rights. I will need to get into those details after a short commercial break. This is the economic agenda. Media and human rights in national development. Is press freedom free, as it's stated? Is it freedom indeed, or actually we have to make sure that there's something that we need to understand as we express ourselves? Stay tuned. This is Mark24 TV. I will be back.
24, driving business.
Cooking oil like no other makes your meal so sweet and scrumptious. The taste of Uganda, yeah, the taste of Uganda, the taste of Uganda.
Luxury redefined at Seasand Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy, exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasand Hotel. So visit today at plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasand Hotels, luxury redefined.
You used to tell me that I don't make you happy. All that time you would be complaining. I'll call you every day, yeah yo, baby don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100*21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Esther. I'm in liquid soap making class. I'm from Terego district, Odupi sub-county, from Oribu parish, Okagu village. So I'm here after getting an invitation from our CDO from the sub-county that there is a project called Grow Project implemented by Nuwebis. In the Lira district, they want women who are already in business. They should come and they should come for a training of 3 weeks. They are going to be transported, accommodation, feeding, and everything. After we reached here, and we were introduced, the first day we were introduced to liquid soap making, I came to realize that the training we had, there were some materials making. It was now a challenge to us because the two materials which were missing, they were making our soap not to be quality. Even the customers could complain that, hey, this soap of yours, it doesn't take long. The color just fades within some few days. It becomes watery. The government, through World Bank and through the Ministry of Gender, for having heard the voice of the people who were real, that women are really behind those ones in business, most especially we in liquid soap making. But now after here, when we started making our liquid soap, the quality really, there was a great change. That means now from here, if I go back, I'm going to start adding the two materials, CMC and caustic soda. I'm going to keep on adding it in my liquid soap I make. That means I'm quite sure that if I make 5 liters a day, within 2 hours, I know the customers are going to take it.
Grow, generating growth opportunities and productivity for women enterprises.
Smart 24, driving business.
Okay, right there. And I will tell you one thing. Sometimes in these studios, there are debates that happen behind the behind scenes that you sometimes need to be part of. But anyways, welcome back. We are still discussing the issue of media and human rights in national development. Not the reason why we are having this conversation. It's one thing to come and discuss about media and human rights, but we want to relate this conversation to national development. We are in a month, I consider this the first month of the year when it comes to financial year, because it's the month that we are implementing the financial budget. And of course, a number of things are starting today, and we're going to begin counting the quarters until we know that by 2025, have we achieved or we have not. Now, we need to understand the position of the media in this case. Considering press freedom, and we're asking, is press freedom actually free, or it's just on paper? Before we left, Major retired Awich had a comment on issues of rights, and he was lecturing us on issues that back then, kings, in the days of the kings, there were no human rights, they were just rights. And people have fought, and we have achieved human rights, which we should give credit to all of us. Of course, we're not going to count on a particular people. I'm not going to say, yes, it's only Awich. Yes, I understand they sacrificed a lot of things to make sure that the Constitution is back to its functioning. But I wanted to highlight, according to the United Nations human rights, they mention and say human rights include rights of life and liberty. That's the first one they mention. Freedom from slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and of course there are so many other rights that we look at. Freedom to life and liberty is the first one they talk about. After which, should I let you comment on this? Or
yes, I think he said life is the least right.
Yes.
For me, it's the most fundamental right. And I think he said something like that human rights. Some people say rights are God-given, and he disagrees with that. He says that rights are given by those people who fight for them. But even the people who fought, they operated under God-given rights. Yes. The issue is God woke up one day and created human beings. That those human beings should have a life. Did God want them to have a bad life of torture? No. In fact, the Bible says Jesus came so that we may have life and have it to the fullest. So to fight for human rights, for those who fight for human rights, we thank them very much. But they are God-given. They are only putting in place the human rights that had been taken away, that God had already put for human beings. Yeah, so that's what I wanted really to disagree with.
Major is a scholar of human rights and as an advocate. I still want to ask you one thing. When you say that when you mention people who fought for the human rights, how much power are we giving to these people regarding human rights? How much should they determine that we should do and not do? regarding to, for example, media, how much power is given to these people. Yes, they fought, and we made sure that human rights are promoted, which we should give credit to that. Much as these human rights, to me, like David says, I still believe that human rights are God-given. Enough of these are God-given. So how much power are we looking at for these people when it comes to determining what the media can do and what can do?
Well, first of all, how much power we are giving to these people. I don't know which people, but the people I'm referring to are people who are long dead. So I wonder what power you are giving them. For example, I'm saying we are now talking of freedom from slavery.
From slavery.
We know people who fought for against slavery. Even in the eyes of our white brothers, they would capture you from Africa. And that is a later stage of slavery, by the way. This slavery that we know is a much later form of slavery of 15th, 16th century. But there was slavery even in 1000 BC, much later at the early development of society. The entire Rome and Greece was full of, city-states of slaves. Slaves. Now tell me, in Rome, in Greece, where you would have like 10,000 slaves, if you were telling me that the freedom from slavery is a God-given right. People had to fight for it, to make sure that slavery is bad and therefore we should be free from it. Now, even when you talk of later slavery, of this one, of recent, it's a very recent slavery. This recent slavery of taking people to America, even by the time a slave is crossing Atlantic Ocean, can you imagine they would baptize you in the sea, in the ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean, that you are now Peter. But you're saying Jesus Christ loves me and you are taking me as a slave. Therefore, people who fought, including racial equality, now we say it is a right to be free from racial discrimination. Then Martin Luther King fought for it. There are people who fought for slavery, against slavery. So what I'm saying is that, and I like when you say it's not only their wage, it is a societal development. Whoever participated at that level of development, like those who fought against slavery in Greece. Unfortunately, the Roman and the Greek Europeans fought slavery, but they turned around to do the same to Africa. There was first a mark between the slavery, the classical slavery in Europe. They had a gap of like 400, 500 years. Then they started the same thing in Africa. So therefore I'm saying society evolves, society develops. If you look at it from your point that God created us, we did that, you're coming from another perspective. You're looking at it from the 5 books of Moses. Moses wrote Genesis, Exodus. Those 5 books of the Bible were written by Moses. Should you choose to look at it from the Mosaic literature, then that is up to you. But for me, I'm seeing it from a materialistic development, that indeed whatever Moses did and wrote in this book, it is true that classical slavery existed in Rome and Greece. In the south and even northern Europe, it first died in extreme northern Europe. You find in Greece 10,000 slaves. In Rome, 15,000 slaves. And now you tell me it is God-given. Until those people fought it and abolished it. Now, I want to comment, you talked about right to life. And that shows you, if you think it is God-given, therefore, under our Constitution, Article 44, there are rights that you can never ever tamper with under all circumstances. Even if it is a state of emergency, you can't. What are these rights? 1, right to habeas corpus. When somebody is arrested and detained somewhere not known, your relative has a right to say, please, Attorney General, bring him here. 2, bring the body. Corpus means a body. If we refer to dead, it is corpse. That's why we have body corporate. It is a body. Now, the second one is freedom from torture. In the past, if Okello steals chicken in the magistrate court, the magistrate would order, by court ruling, the court has decided. But now even the court does not power to say Cain or kill 10 strokes. In the past, we got the sky of the Gomorrah to Cain, administer in court. Now, no more. The third one is of fair hearing. If somebody is accused in any administrative or judicial, please hear both sides. And that's why a court which proceeds without hearing the both sides is a nullity. I've counted 1, 3. Freedom of slavery, torture, fair hearing, and right to habeas corpus. I've done that. 4. You will notice that in these rights which are non-derogatable, there is no right called right to food. There is no right called right to life. In other words, if you commit a crime which is punishable by death, your right to life can be deprived. It is not like the other 4 which says under no circumstance. In other words, if this right to life was that non-derogatable, it would say even if you murdered 100 people in a Colorado airstrip, never will your life be that way.
Major retire. The fact that when you look at the UN human rights, United Nations human rights, which is quite an example of the international human rights, they start with life and liberty. So when you talk about food,
I don't know what you are quoting. What are you citing? Because there's nothing like citing Uganda UN human rights. UN human rights is a body like Uganda human rights, so you can't quote it. I thought you were quoting like Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or you are quoting a civil and political rights, or you are quoting, you must quote an instrument. You can't quote a body. You can't quote Uganda Human Rights Commission. UN Human Rights is a body of UN, like UN World Food Program, like UN whatever, UNICEF. So I want you to say, and this is said under UDR, because that is near the grand norm, the grand norm. The UDR, that is Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's an instrument, it's a small document, but very important. But even then, if you tell it that way, the listing is not in any order of priority. It was just a list. It did not state in UDR under that instrument that this list is according to its priority. And that is why members of United Nations, like America for example, America has death sentence in its law. Other parts of UN countries like Europe, they abolish death sentence. And very recent, European abolish recently. Otherwise, Europeans were also saying right to life is not non-derogatable.
Major Awich, when we stress issues of rights and
the definition of rights,
the definition of rights, we definitely have a version that needs to sit down and be adopted in some way. Let me get this to a more practical conversation of how, let's operationalize the conversation. I would say that. Look at how media and journalists are treated, media houses and journalists are treated in regards to their rights and freedom of expression. They have the right to make sure, they have the right to information, media, of course. We know that there's some information that we may not really, just come bring out, and according to our ethics, we know that some information is not just supposed to go there. But we have to make sure that we inform the public. We have to make sure that we treat every Ugandan equally. There are scenarios, let me drop this in politics, and David, I would want a comment on this. There are scenarios that we have seen media houses being ordered not to do certain things, not to host some people, not to broadcast it, not to broadcast certain things. For example, some music that you're told, you're not supposed to broadcast this music.
I think the fundamental issue is there's a big gap between the law and what actually happens in terms of these freedoms, press freedoms and human rights. I think the senior lawyer can give a whole day's presentation on these things, but the summary of it is that we have very, very comprehensive laws on these matters, human rights, press freedoms. But like I said earlier, I think the authorities are not very comfortable with the truth. That's why you have these situations where I talked about self-censorship. A media house by its own volition says, I would want to publish this, but I will not for my own safety.
For my own safety.
Yeah, so they have to calculate what to publish and what not to publish. Yeah, so to that extent, the environment is very, very limiting. Yes, the law is very, very clear and comprehensive, but the practice,
clear policies,
yes,
clear regulations.
Yes. Yeah. So then that takes us to the next level. If the media is not free of itself under the regulatory environment, how will it play the role of enabling development, like you said on our topic, media in enabling human rights in the national development?
Yes.
So how, and you know, there's you guys, the way media people, the way you call yourself the fourth estate, the fourth arm of government. How would the arm of government enable development when it is disabled? You understand? So it's very, very inhibiting. So the conversation now goes to that next level, that it also affects the ability of media to contribute to national development.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sort of seeing kingship back to the days when we had rights and not human rights. I'm still looking at some kingship here, Dr. Wich, and I would honestly want your very detailed expertise on these matters, because you are the right person to talk to us on some of these issues. When I say kingship, you explained that back then people had no human rights, they had rights. The people would determine what has to be done and what doesn't have to be done. Not that they inherently had these human rights to do certain things, but I'm seeing that even in this generation, they are determining what has to be. You find a media house is going to host a politician, and the forces come and surround it and says, no, you're not supposed to do this. Under what circumstances are we having?
And they always say order from above.
Yes,
this order from above is
it always comes from Afando Wich, but
no. You see, not only freedom of press, all freedom or rights for that case, it is only your right if it will not interfere with his right. Once you start to enjoy your rights at the expense of his rights with intersection, your rights intersecting with his and violate, then it stops to be right. Okay? So that is when I say your question is press freedom. It is freedom, yes, but that freedom, once it crosses a borderline of interfering with freedom of another, then it stops. For example, you cannot say you're free to publish, to spoil somebody's name, for example. You are not free to tell lies about somebody. You are not free to insult. So freedom, like any other freedom, including movement, you can't say you're free to move on somebody's land. That would be trespass. So because your freedom now would be crossing into somebody else's freedom. So likewise, press freedom is only freedom in that limited circumstance that it doesn't offend other person's freedom. Now, my friend talks about self-censorship. My opinion is that if you can censor yourself, it's even better, because if you censor yourself, you don't risk publishing something which will be taken to court. You don't risk publishing something which would insult another. I would rather you censor yourself than wanting a police to censor you. Actually, me, I censor myself a lot, including now. There are many things that I have my editorial thing in my head that even when I'm talking now, I'm editing and censoring. So I do not see what is wrong with censoring.
A lot is very wrong with this.
Because would you?
Because your assumption is that the freedom should be limited by making sure that people don't infringe on other people's rights.
Yes.
But what is happening is not that maybe a media house was going to publish a story that infringes on someone else's right. No. They are going to publish a story that is factual. You understand? Maybe someone misappropriated funds, but they're so big somewhere. They just say, if we publish this one, we have had very many stories in this town that the public would have benefited from knowing. They infringe on no one's rights, but they highlight criminality. So your assumption that freedom should be curtailed by preventing trampling on other people's rights, nobody is trying to trample on any other's rights, but the media self-censorship is they are censoring themselves on stories that could benefit the public, not stories that would infringe on other people's rights. That should be very clear.
Then that is a fact, a case-by-case scenario, because even
there are very many.
Even now that you are saying this, we cannot go to the extent and say, bring the example.
Yes.
You bring the example. Maybe you're making a general case, but if we went into case by case, which we can't do now, you'd find that actually you have nothing.
I have to censor myself. I
want to say this, that when we talk about this area of press freedom, we maybe need to agree and lift the veil. Because what I'm seeing for the journalist per se is more or less a right to practice a trade. Because we have a right to practice. If you're a doctor, you have a right to practice your work. That is it. But about press freedom, I was thinking, who is the right holder in this case?
In this case.
Is it the journalist or the person you want to quote to talk? Is it, if you are quoting a witch to get a story, is a witch the right holder of this press freedom? Or is it the journalist writing?
Let me create a scenario. And these are cases that have been reported by media. They have also been noticed by the public. And I would love to highlight one thing. I know democracy is one of the key things in development. In fact, democracy is development. Do we agree on that? Yes, we do. Now, democracy being development and being a contributor to development, national development, democracy is pioneered by politics and elections and campaigns. Is media allowed to freely represent the opinions of the opposition? And if yes, if no, I would want to know why it's a no. If it's yes, then why does the media get stopped from representing the opinions of the opposition, especially during campaigns?
My answer is that the media is supposed to expose or to prophesize or to highlight the public on both the incumbent government and opposition. In fact, I don't remember well, but under the law, there should even be equal or exposure on media.
On national media outlets, like
national, that is the position. So that is it. It is my considered opinion, and in our party, that position should be there to give equal airtime to everybody.
To everybody.
Yes, that is a position, and we try to adhere to it. Now, as to the implementers, those who actually sit in the studios like you, and maybe other agents like the RDC that I've heard about, then I need, that is supposed to be a case-by-case situation, or they could explain under what circumstances they stopped. But otherwise, the position in a governance system and the position under the law is that even when we have 5 presidential candidates, UBC, which is a public media, is supposed to give them equal coverage, equal time. That's a position.
Thank you so much. Yes.
I think my senior lawyer, he's trying to be very polite, but to say that case by case, these stories are so common. Someone who is even paid money to go and appear on radio.
Yes.
They go there, they are pulled out. they are so common. They are so everywhere.
It creates
and moreover violently. So you cannot even say case by case. That's it's actually the laws that opposition people cannot pay money and speak on radio.
Let's go into a short commercial break. This is Smart 24 TV and Media and Human Rights in National Involvement. The debate here gets more interesting in terms of media. When we come back, we are also going to touch into the media's accountability. We need to get into the accountability of the media. Is press freedom free? That's the question. We'll return after a short commercial break. Stay tuned. This is Smart 24 TV, the economic agenda.
You see why I'm saying?
Smart 24, driving business.
My name is Chomugisa Teddy from Chikube district. I'm a businesswoman in fashion and design. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. From what I know before I came, it was making gomes, trousers, dresses in Bitengi, and some shirts in Bitengi for men. Been here for 1 month, but I've learned how to stitch a trouser with a behind pocket. I've learned a long sleeve shirt with a placket. I've learned how to use a button machine on shirts. There's a button machine we use. You place the button machine, you put the buttons on your shirt. I've learned how to use a baby lock machine. When I go back to Chikube, first and foremost, I know now, since I have knowledge, I will have to extend my business. The message to Grow Project is to support us as women, because not only me, not only who is there down, others are being left there. I want all of us to be lifted at a goal as women in my district of Chikube. Again, the project of Grow continues supporting us. As I have told you, that fashion and design is wide. We need more trainings. And we need these machines of electronic machines, because they are very expensive. We cannot afford to buy them. The cutter, the rotary cutter, the baby lock, that one of stitching, we cannot afford, because one machine almost it is on 2 million, whereby like me with my small business, I cannot afford to buy that machine. So we are requesting the project of Grow and other stakeholders to assist us and buy for us those machines.
Grow, generating growth opportunities and productivity for women enterprises.
Luxury redefined at Seasan Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasan Hotel. So visit today at Plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasan Hotels, luxury redefined.
We've been through a lot. The only reason why we are still standing is because we're the Kirundas. And therefore the need to keep that name and legacy alive.
There's something you're not telling us.
What are you talking about?
So you knew about the people that killed Teresa and you kept it to yourself.
Lucy, the last time we did not do it properly.
You used to tell me that I don't make you happy. All that time you would be complaining. I'll call you every day, yeah yo, baby don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Cooking oil like no other makes your meal so sweet and scrumptious. The taste of Uganda, yeah, the taste of Uganda, the taste of Uganda.
Smart 24, driving business.
Well, here we are, back with the economic agenda. Before we left, the debate had heated up here and there, trying to analyze the situation of the media in Uganda, especially in the democratic processes, elections, campaigns, and how unfair sometimes media can be treated in making sure that they represent both people in power, the people in power and opposition fairly and equally. We had quite a number of comments. David, you had a comment before we left. I don't know if you still want to finish that. But you still want to finish that? Now, one of the things that I want to try to talk about is to highlight some of the roles that the media plays. We are meant to be the watchdog. That means we keep the government in check. We keep the government accountable. We keep political leaders accountable. Not only the government, but different people in check. Corporations, even pastors, even religious leaders, because some of them go overboard. We're supposed to keep them in check and make sure that we report the achievements and the wrong things they are doing. And also, we are supposed, the three core is that we're supposed to educate, to entertain, and to inform. Let's get into the accountability. Now, I'm going to assume I'm the one at this angle. I'll find a Major retired Awich. Do you think the media is doing its job in Uganda, in national involvement?
The media is doing its job. Nearly every average Ugandan is informed. Even up country, people who are plowing or weeding, they go with their small radio.
Yeah.
And they get entertained, they get informed, and they get educated. Very much so. So media is doing that. Of course, in areas of accountability, especially checking on corruption, so to say, they have done much. Do you know that Transparency International, the organization which ranks countries according to the perceived corruption, they actually don't investigate corruption, they only take reported corruption.
Reported corruption.
Meaning that if Uganda was so corrupt and you don't report,
it wouldn't be known.
We would be ranked near the best. Near which country are the best? Singapore.
Singapore.
Would be ranking near Singapore.
Singapore.
So the fact that Transparency International takes interest and ranks us, it means we are reporting. We are reporting it. So I've already talked about information, entertaining, and educating. So in a corruption report and accountability, that is, because I was not clear whether you're saying accountability by the journalist or by reporting corruption, bringing accountability.
Now you see, our accountability as journalists is to make sure that we have made politicians accountable. That's accountability. Have we reported? Have we delivered?
That one is reported, and that's why Transparency International takes it. Transparency International, to rank a country, they rank according to reported. And where do they get the reporting? From the media. So meaning, as I said, if the press shut up in reporting about corruption, would rank up to near Singapore. So we report, and that's why we still believe that there are some countries which are under-reporting theirs, and they're still seen as good. So in accountability you have done, in entertainment, education, and we have done it. And generally, people really make informed decisions now. People make decisions comparing the awareness they have. People now have option to say, I'll choose this bottle instead of that bottle. And this is not only by mere advertisement, but by informing in news form. I'm putting this in because these are goods to be consumed, but I'm talking of decision making, including parties. Today I was attending a workshop where a research was done by Afrobarometer. It is strange but true. Two things. One, it was saying that people have moved away. 44% of Ugandans said they don't want any party. Then 42% said they want NRM. Then about the other 20-something% are the ones who said they still want opposition. So you can imagine that people are making decisions on that. Similarly, a decision, their survey was saying on violence, who perpetuates violence. And this is what I've been saying. They agreed with me that is actually a position which is perpetuating violence. This is an Afrobarometer. And I had told people before, because I told a friend that we NRM, we are the victims of violence. We are the ones aggressed. Somebody said no. Then I told him, I said, okay, my friend, you are noob, okay? If you think we are the ones perpetuating, give me t-shirt for noob and the kofia. I give you t-shirt for NRM and the kofia. They drop us in one gear during the day. We see who will be attacked. He will attack you. So the man refused to give me, he refused us to exchange t-shirts. I said, why are you fearing? Now, it is immaterial to even justify. For example, some people justify, okay, they attack NRM because they have been harassed. No amount of justification justify an attack. In fact, by justifying why you have attacked, you have conceded that you have attacked. It is immaterial. So I'm saying, why are people making decisions? People are making decisions because the media is informing them.
So how many percent say, which percentage say they want to support opposition?
Okay, put 42 and 44.
44.
The rest.
44 are saying we don't want in a political party.
Yes. Then 42, they wanted,
that is,
the balance
80, that is
opposition.
88.
Then the balance is opposition.
So,
86.
So you realize
So the 14% are the ones they spread between. No, but I think
I don't want to get into
it's a bit of a it's a hot topic.
It's a hot topic.
But the point here is, how do people make decisions? That when Afrobarometer goes to interview, and this person who is answering, where does he get what to answer? That is the point. That this person decides to answer, I support opposition or NRM, basing on the information in the media. That's my point.
I think that I mean, who really, it's very, very, very common for Ugandans when they're being asked questions to try and show that they're pro-government, because they know the consequences of showing that they're pro-government. So, I mean, I've done research. Trust me, that research is questionable. That's questionable. So it's also part of the conversation I was talking about, self-censorship. Citizens know how to censor themselves to say, I support government, even when they support what? Opposition. So those rules are defective. But come back to the issue.
So the issue of
how effective is media. Its role. I think I agree with him. There are areas where media has done very well, especially exposing corruption. Although there are certain corruption cases you hear which you are silenced because you also hear very many other, but there are areas where really the media really has to improve. For example, this conversation is just bring from the Afrobarometer survey. Protests and demonstrations are always peaceful until police comes in. They are always peaceful until police comes in. Now, the media, yes. You know what the media reports? The tax, the narrative, riots. They report riots. They adopt the narrative of the government. Okay? It was a peaceful protest. It was a peaceful demonstration. But the media is so. It becomes a. I'm struggling to not to use the strong word here. How do you, as media? You have been working with these people from Wandegea, and then you reach City Square. Yes. Peaceful all the way from Wandegea. You reach City Square. Police gets involved. People getting beaten, shot, and then you blame the peaceful protesters and demonstrators, and even label them rioters. I think the media is doing Uganda a very big disservice, perpetrating this narrative of rioters. It's a very, very big disservice. Okay, and you media people, you have to be very, very keen on this. The people are always demonstrating, protesting. That's why you see your colleagues in Kenya are doing a very good job. Protests, demonstration. No, but I think you never had this narrative of riots. They went overboard. Yes, they went overboard. Yes. Police in Kenya was very peaceful. They handled it well until these young people reached parliament. Yes, in fact, the Kenya situations, you could say rioting, because they went vandalizing but the case in Uganda is very different. Mischaracterizing peaceful demonstration and protests. It's a very, very big problem I have with the media, perpetrating this narrative of rioters, such that they can now justify the violence and killings which normally happen. So it's a very big. So there's a very big need for improvement on media there. They have to be very keen on characterizing situations very well. There are also other areas. My work has been in my previous job was in malaria. You know that these stories that help to the development, health-related stories. So we're doing a lot of mobilization of private sector mobilization. You probably heard the minister saying the donors are now tired of our malaria. So there's this now movement towards the private sector mobilization. So we had mobilized a number of companies that they committed to participate in the malaria month. and it was big. It was a big announcement. They offered space. They offered a lot of resources. There was a presser, and we issued a press briefing, very well written. And one of the girls from one of the two main print media, they didn't even capture that. They wrote something totally different. And like, what's wrong with these people? Even the editor. When did you ever hear of private sector companies coming strong to support malaria? Of all things, malaria is a hard sell. Should be a big story. Yeah. But my point is, the media should know the stories that are pro-development and highlight them. I wrote an article, a commentary some time back about school results. I have a big problem with the media. Whenever school results are out, they are all over the place. Top AAA. That narrative is perpetuating this commercialization of education.
Yes. And people getting... Yes. So these days even schools buy. I understand. Good performers.
There are schools which...
Come and sit for the exam.
There are schools which assess students during mock. This was my...
student.
Yeah.
You come give you free...
No.
You don't pay
so they go and teach for clever.
You give me the best performance.
The clever students.
Come and sit. For
and then,
UCE in my school.
And then he gets during mock, he assesses, these ones might not perform well, removes them, buys the other ones. Have you ever seen such a story in the media? No. But they are perpetrating this sensationalization with the results. Me, I challenged one of the editors at Monitor. I told them, why don't you do a backward story? Go to Makerere and see the best performing students at Makerere. You know, at Makerere, the environment is different. It's more meritocratic. But at O level, A level, there's a lot of cheating, a lot of cramming. You don't get the best. So I challenge them, why don't you go and get the best students at Makerere, first class, and work backwards and see what did they get at O A level. And in the reverse way, look for people who scored those triple A's. How do they perform at university? Also, how are they performing in life generally? If they're the cleverest people, are they inventing? Are they discovering things, or they also go on to do normal jobs like the rest of us, the average students? So these are some of the critical stories I would want to see media. They perpetrate some of these really unhelpful narratives on education. They can't see the big story that is emerging within health. They can't see a big story that is emerging within climate change is a big thing. And
I know Major would be saying they don't look at the positive in NRM, they want to criticize NRM.
No, but even without looking at the positive or negative, I'm looking at the issues that they should be elevating. Last year during the COP28, the climate change conference, global, it was in Egypt, BBC 2 months before, day on day, they were running stories on climate change. There was no such thing in the Monitor. And I told the editor, you guys, what's wrong? Africa is the most affected by climate change. But our media is not addressing climate change and how it affects the different sectors. BBC is running day on day, hour on hour coverage. What's wrong with this? So in this way, I really see that the media has not done as a good, that played that role.
So I found out with you noted something, and I realized you had a comment on David's submission.
Well,
I'm assuming on the side of protests and police.
the right narrative. The right narrative. Mischaracterizing.
I'm keeping my eye on the press and development. I deliberately, like normally I do, I did not want to see the downward side of the press because I don't want to do the same thing we're accusing the press, because in the journalistic profession I'm told that when a dog bites meat, it is not news. But when when meat bites the dog. That's the news. So therefore, I am sympathizing with you, trying to choose for them what they think is a story. I think they must be looking at you and say, this guy is crazy. What the hell are you to tell us what amounts to a story? Remember, they are selling. So I did not want to look at it from a position of half full or half empty glass. You know, when you have a half of this water, like this one, if you ask somebody, is this water, what is it about this water? Somebody can choose to say it is a half empty. Another would choose to say it is a half full. So if you see that the ones who say a half full are always positivist. The one who look at it as half empty are the negativists. So I just wanted to assume a positive view, but I know the challenge is there too. And about the exams, it's so unfortunate. And I've heard that omission from them, but I came from a school where really cheating exams was nowhere. For us, in our school,
that generation was okay.
Our school,
your generation,
our school, you were free to do anything. I mean anything except cheating. For example, for your information, I went to Ntari school. Senior leaders like the Kategaya would even come. May his soul rest in peace. Kategaya would come to school and address assembly and even ask the headmaster, why are students putting on uniform? Are they prisoners? But if the need was freedom, but, and a very big but, if you were found cheating exams, even school tests, you leave. So I was imagining this school with a freedom where you are not even telling us to put on uniform. What is it about cheating? Never. I talked to a lawyer who came to a school, I want to mention the name, a lady. When I told her about what was in Ntare, for us, he told me, for us it is the opposite. You are not free to do anything in our school, except that you are free to cheat. I said, really?
Yeah, I think it's a generation.
Yes, it's a generation lawyer. She was a lawyer. Yeah, she said, I can't believe. I said, what? I said, for us, we are free not even to put on uniform. We are free not even to put on uniform, but cheating.
Yeah.
Even
these men have hit a big torch into the media.
Yeah.
And I hope a journalist or media house out there gets to learn something. Well, the thing is, it's one thing to do right, and it's one thing to act like you're doing the right thing, you get. But media sometimes, they have gotten to the level whereby they're acting like they're doing the right things. Yeah. Which we are going for.
No, but obviously, I think let me say this. I really had restrained myself from criticisms, but we have had stories where people write, a wrong occurs. When the journalist comes to follow the story, he's given something.
Yeah, okay. That's true.
That's true. So when our time is up, I want to see how we can wind up this. I'm sorry, I won't even let you say the final words, but I want to really be appreciative. I'm appreciative of your submission and your commitment to make sure that you join us on the economic agenda. And I believe that we're going to have more of these engagements. It's what we need for the generation. While people are right now gossiping about this and that and that, yeah, those that want serious information, issue-based conversations, here we are. And I will promise you one thing. The media houses that are doing the right things are doing this, because we need to address some of these things. And from a major right away, want to thank you so much for sparing your time and of course making sure that you're giving us all that expertise. And David, it's been an honor to have you today. I know you traveled a long journey to be here.
Yes.
And your opinion on the media is very important. It was point on it, because media, they tend to maximize money more than the job, the role they're supposed to be doing. Ladies and gentlemen, let me wish you a very good night. It's exactly 30 minutes past 10, and this is the economic agenda. We'll be discussing media and human rights in national development. Is press freedom free? Unfortunately, I want to be able to get into social media to see some of the comments, because time is up. My name is Noah Wapera. Have a good night. We'll see you next Tuesday. And thank you for being part of the show.